Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Lenovo Legion Go S for 2025. Now, you may have noticed I have the original Legion Go sitting right here, which I think was far more of an effort by Lenovo to create their own identity in the space, something that was really unique, and they did exactly that. An 8.8-inch high-res display, 144 hertz refresh rate, detachable controllers, essentially, that can go into different modes of gameplay, a built-in kickstand, really one of the most full-featured handhelds on the market. Still really my favorite if you want the best all-around unit out there. But it was expensive, it is large, it is heavy, and the other thing that Lenovo paid attention to, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, was getting SteamOS to be the actual platform for the device as opposed to Windows. And they did it. So I'll include a link in the description. And in full disclosure, this was furnished to me by the manufacturer for review purposes, but this is not a sponsored video. So what you're about to see is essentially the Legion Go S that's been out, but as I mentioned, it now is rocking SteamOS. This is the only device other than the Steam Deck itself to officially run SteamOS. And this is a big deal because for anyone who's looking for really more of a non-Windows experience, that's exactly what you're going to get out of this. So what does that mean? Well, on this device that I mentioned and showed here earlier, you're going to go through Windows updates. You're going to obviously need to do driver updates. You're going to service, part of the ownership will be servicing the hardware. Here with the Linux-based SteamOS, it's very much just a pick up and play situation, paralleling what you're accustomed to with traditional consoles. So if that's what you're after, which until now the Steam Deck was the only device to really do that, this is now going to be your other option. So at $599 US, it's not the least expensive handheld on the market, but I think it's priced appropriately. You are getting the AMD Ryzen Z2 Go. There's also the higher end version of this, which is over $800. I do not recommend going that route. Personally, I think this is the sweet spot. First thing, some instructions there or some paperwork. And this was just explaining that it was a kickstand for the actual console itself. So you have a little kickstand, so that's nice that they gave that to you if you choose to use it instead of buying an aftermarket one. 16 gigs of RAM, DDR5, of course. I think it's rated, is this upside down? No, rated at like, I think it's over 7,000 megatransfers. And then a 0.5 terabyte NVMe SSD, 2 USB 4.0 ports. I mean, it has everything, but it does not at all, again, come with an approach like the original Legion Go. So for some people, that will be something they wish, Lenovo had dug into. And for others, they're going to be really happy that they're getting more of a traditional design here that rivals the Steam Deck. So let's get the actual charger out. 55.5 watt-hour battery, for those of you that are wondering. Standard 65 watt charger from Lenovo, Type-C, of course. And with that 55.5 watt-hour battery, from what I've seen so far, we're going to see a little over 2 hours of AAA gaming, which I think is pretty solid on a 1200p display like the one that is on this device. And at 8 inches, this is going to be a little bit more manageable for those of you that, again, feel that the larger displays, like the one on the Legion Go, are just, well, unruly. Of course, nothing is detachable here. As you can see at the top of the device, we have our power button, volume rockers, headphone jack, and then the two Type-C USB 4 ports, some ventilation. Flip it around to the bottom. You've got your micro SD card slot for storage expansion, storing your games primarily. Back of the device, you can see the Steam certification sticker, the badge, as well as much more ventilation for that AMD chipset. And then really, it's just dialing things in, making this a really well-tuned machine for mobile gaming. And I think they may have done that here, especially at the price point, because one of my hangups, and I think this will need to be charged in order to power on, but one of my hangups with these devices, I'll just grab a Type-C I have here, is that for the price they command, you're essentially buying into something that is generally, yes, it's all about the form factor and portability, but the asking price being close to $1,000 as it has been now, basically, other than the Steam Deck itself, every other variant. If you go with the Claw right now, it's $1,000. You go with the top line of this, it's $900. And it's a little bit insane, in my opinion. And that's why I own something like the Asus acronym, the Z13. And yes, that's been supplanted. The acronym didn't come back, but I think you understand where I'm going with this. I would rather have something that really is a laptop that's really lightweight, weighs like 2 pounds, which is only a half pound more than this, but can do everything and won't break my neck. But for those of you who really must have this, and there are a lot of you, and I get it, years ago, this would have been something I really would have loved. You can see we are charging. And I still think it has its place. But if, like me, you've got neck issues, it's a little bit of a different story. And again, I don't think this is really good for anyone's neck. But if what you're after is the best, I would say, bang for the buck in the space, this is going to be right up there. Of course, Steam Deck is the direct competition. That has an OLED display. This was originally supposed to be $500. It's now $600. But I still think it's well balanced. Again, you're getting it from one of the best manufacturers in the business. This is the only other device, at least at the moment, that runs SteamOS. And the advantage to that is that, based on all benchmarking so far, I mean, SteamOS is going to give you a little bit better performance than you're going to get out of its Windows counterparts. So that's something you should know right off the bat. But, of course, you're losing out on all of the functionality you have with Windows. So if you don't care about the, I'll say, double-edged sword of having a full-blown computer in one of these devices, which is what Windows provides, then this is going to be a better option. It's going to be less expensive. It's going to be better performing for its actual task, but then there are limitations associated with going with SteamOS. So it's only going to be Steam games. You are not going to be able to get to other platforms. You're not going to be installing other gaming platforms. You will be relegated to Steam. I don't think that's a problem, but it's something customers have to understand. So if you buy this as opposed to the Windows-driven Legion Go S, which is just white instead of this color, which is more of a purple blue, nebula blue, I think is what they call it, then you're going to get a full-blown computer that looks just like this. Here, all the same hardware, but with SteamOS, this is not a full-blown computer, at least from a Windows standpoint. But again, performance for its task that it was designed for will be better, and I think that is incredibly relevant, if not more important, if that is what you're after. And the majority of people buying these absolutely want best-in-class performance for the task they're designed for, which is gaming. So I think this has a lot of potential. We have little mouse here, little trackpad, just like the Steam OS-driven Steam Deck. But we'll see how this performs. It's nowhere near the size of the one on the Steam Deck. And I still have the original Steam Deck. I don't use it as much, really. When I did ever revert to any handheld gaming, the Legion Go was my preferred choice just because of the bigger display, kickstand, controllers that were detachable, there's a lot, okay? It's definitely more fleshed out. And to me, if you're going to run Windows, I want something that's going to be more than just a handheld. That's my own personal preference. This is delivering exactly the opposite. And I think if you're going to be a Steam Deck competitor, this is a smarter direction to go than this. This is something that gives users that felt the Steam Deck left a lot off the table more options. And I think there's still a space for this. I'm not the direct customer for it, though, as mentioned earlier in the video. And that's why I think this is really the one-size-fits-all for this space. And I don't know how long this, I'm not going to call it a fad, but this genre of gaming is going to continue. I've been a gamer my entire life. And so, again, conceptually, I love the idea. I just think that battery life is still so far away from this making a lot of sense. I know a lot of people like to use this for couch gaming. I get it. But right now, again, a little over 2 hours AAA gaming in the balanced mode, a little over an hour in the extreme performance mode. And yeah, that's solid, no question about it, but that's where I start to scratch my head again. And that's a video for another day. But I'm excited about this because, again, at a $600 price point, we've got what should amount to one of the best experiences, even though it has an IPS display here that is only 120 hertz. It's like, from a spec perspective, this thing they threw the kitchen sink into. Here they stripped it down, even on the software side. But remember, with SteamOS, you're going to get better overall performance. You're going to get better hibernation. I mean, man, Windows is a slug, and that's a compliment when it comes to going in and out of sleep. So if you're gaming here, and I'm saying this based on my experience with the Steam Deck, because this was always an inherent advantage, and you decide to pause your session, put the device down, it's going to be frozen in time there waiting with the smallest amount of battery drain possible, because the Linux-based OS, SteamOS, just does that better. There's no other BS going on in the background that potentially has to be managed. And that's really the secret to the success here. Reminds me a lot of Apple, but that's another video for another time. This, on the other hand, it's like Microsoft is constantly, and this is sad but true, having to go back and try to re-engineer things to improve performance because there's so much crap going on with Windows, and it makes sense. So again, potato, maybe not. It really depends on what you're looking to get out of the device. I personally think, as I've said over and over again, the one size fits best is going to be the best fit. But for everyone else out there who wanted a little bit more, something more unique, I'm glad this existed. We'll see what happens now going forward. But again, between the raw performance, hibernation, even charging, I mean, I think this is going to take a little over an hour, close to an hour and a half to charge this roughly a little over 1.5 pound device. And that's fine. But again, I just get back to thinking of my acronym, or the Z13 that's currently out, the 2025 model, and how, yes, they're much more expensive. They didn't used to be. Interesting how that changed. But inherently, I just feel like you'd still be better served getting a very small, thin and light gaming laptop. But of course, that's not going to have the controllers built in. We know all of this. So this may end up being the best device of its kind, and that is a third-party Steam Deck, since it's the only one on the market. So it'll be interesting to see. But fit and finish, I like it. The overall feel of it is solid, but still fairly lightweight. But inherently, I feel like all of these things need to get down to a pound. Good luck. It's going to be a while before we get there. But when they do that, I think we're going to have a dynamically better offering. The question is, how will they do that without, making it heavier? Obviously, because battery life is still the Achilles on these devices, because the real gain we've gotten is this incredible performance at 720p, basically, and sometimes 1080p in all titles with AMD and now even Intel's latest silicon. And one last point I want to make, while I've been talking about the benefits of having the Linux-based SteamOS experience, and there's a lot to like outside of the shortcomings, which are really only going to bother somebody who wants Windows, which I don't think is the majority of people looking for this device. If you bought this for your son or daughter, grandchild, like, you don't want to necessarily be getting them a PC. This makes a lot more sense. No question about it. And also, no technical know-how needed. I think that is probably the biggest selling point of this, is that this is truly a console. This is truly a computer. I've always felt odd about calling these consoles, even these guys, but at least this makes more sense. And that is why this advantage right now that Steam has, and they deserve credit for really pushing the envelope and not stopping, and it has actually succeeded finally. Most of Steam's hardware agendas have not gone this route, but I'm glad they have, and that's why I did support it at the onset and still do here. But Microsoft is preparing to release their own now handheld, along with new handheld software that's going to apparently push to all of these devices running Windows. So while this Edge is here right now today, at the time of this video, at the end of May of 2025, be aware that with the stroke of a pen, aka a firmware update, this device may all of a sudden finally match and exceed what SteamOS is capable of. And I would bet on Microsoft. It's not to say I prefer or like Microsoft more than Steam, because I've been on Steam like since inception and still use it literally just about every day of my life. That's besides the point. What is the point is that Microsoft is the biggest software manufacturer in the world, and to for a moment believe that while this has exposed that there are some performance gaps and really has brought to the forefront the complaints regarding what hibernation is like in a Windows environment, envelope, if you will, I think this is that turning point where Microsoft will have to actually rectify all of this, and they certainly have the means as well as the personnel to do so. So I'm really glad that these devices are out there. Steam, thank you for making this push, because ultimately the entire gaming world is going to benefit not just from what you've done with your own hardware and software, but now how Microsoft will have to respond for the entire gaming community in the PC world. So it's going to be benefit across the board. I probably should have said that at the top of the video rather than here at the end, but food for thought. I truly believe that Microsoft, they've been exposed. It's a good thing, and they are going to make sure not only that they match performance at Steam, but exceed it. And I sure as hell believe that they will. If I'm wrong, well, we'll all be upset, because that means we'll be living in a worse environment for gaming. But that pretty much rounds things out. Exciting new reimagining of the Legion brand in the handheld gaming space. If you were wondering why I hadn't covered the Go S, now you know why. It's really Lenovo was waiting to send this guy out, and I don't blame them, because I do believe this is where the future of this space is headed. It's going to be tied to Steam. Yes, Microsoft will make their push, like I just said, but for now, it's Steam, and we'll see how many more companies will be licensing for this exact same platform capability, which is really having a console of their very own. And when Windows shows up, we'll be waiting and ready, won't we? But that rounds things out. I'm going to start getting games installed, excited to test this out and see how it performs with the original, or in comparison to the original Legion Go, and of course the original Steam Deck that I have here in studio. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.